Hey everybody, welcome to Fit Faith Freedom. I have April Broomhead here. I am so excited for her to be on the call today. And I'm going to read her bio really quickly and then I'll introduce her. So she tells me that she supports everyday people all over the world to find more confidence and awareness in being themselves, to allow them to parent consciously and live a life they want to wake up for. That sounds freaking amazing, April, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I love how we connected. So let's tell that story first because it's so epic and so random. I posted on Facebook maybe like 6 to 8 months ago that I wanted a friend in New Zealand. And here you are. Now I have a friend. And we connected because we went to the same retreat in Bali. But I want you to tell your take on the story of the fact that I didn't realize that the Bali retreat was in 2018. I thought it was in 2019. So share that story real quickly with us.
Yes. So Cami had messaged and mentioned that she wanted to come to the retreat in Bali. And it was only, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months out. And so we were chatting.
It was a month out, I think, like 8 weeks, like very close.
It was close. It was really close. Actually, yeah, you're right, because I've been hot. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it was close. And we've been chatting back and forth, and basically at the start we were talking about doing something like this. And then Cami said to me, I don't know if she posted it or did you say it somewhere, but anyway, I saw, she thinks it's next year. She thinks she's got time. And I'm like, hey girl, I don't really know, but do you know it's like very soon? Like you gotta book your tickets like now. No, she did not know, but she still can't.
Well, the best part is we connected because I was like, I'm so excited to go to Bali. And then I think you had commented on one of Joel's posts and I was like, hey girl, let's be friends. And like, that's kind of how we became friends. And we were voice memoing on Facebook back and forth. So it was like a quick international friendship and I feel so grateful for it.
Yes.
It was awesome. Too. Well, you have so much to share. So I want to dive into, you wrote a couple things on my little pre-call survey of 2 things that people don't know about you. So what are you vibing on right now that you'd like to share?
Oh, okay. Go straight in with a hard one.
Yeah.
I find it really difficult to answer because I feel like I'm quite open and I feel like people know a lot about me, but there are things that people probably wouldn't assume about me when they'd first meet me or whatever. And one of them, I'm not even sure if I shared this, I may not have, but one of them, when I was younger, so I moved out of home when I was 15. I'm very stubborn, I'm very Aries. I've always been very much, it's not my way or the highway, but very much I want to be me. I never knew how to articulate that back then. But so I moved out of home at 15. And by the time I was 17, I was a manager at McDonald's. And then I ended up leaving there because you're not supposed to be a manager till 18.
Wow.
But yeah, so I actually left home really early and then went straight into a really abusive relationship that I probably stayed in for about 4 years. And it wasn't until I was 19 that I'll share this with you. I haven't shared this with you before, but what a lot of people tell me that I'm strong, and I don't know if I actually agree with that. I just believe that I don't. It's funny because I always say there's always a choice, but in certain things I don't think there is a choice. When the choice is between being alive and not being alive, and I mean at your own hands or someone else's hands, there's no choice. You stay alive. That's it. So I actually left him only because at that moment I was like, if I don't leave, my father is going to have to endure things he shouldn't endure. How did you do this to me? So I left at 19 and it wasn't easy. And then 5 months later, I ended up in a relationship with what is now my recent ex-husband. So most people don't know that. The reason I left was not because I was strong. The reason I left was because I literally had to, because I had my father's face in my head. Yeah, and so I ended up in another relationship, and this one was much different. But again, when I've left that, people again believe that I'm strong, but again, I don't believe that you have a choice. And it wasn't that he wasn't the same in that aspect, but my soul was dying hard and fast. my faith was dying, and I didn't feel any part of myself at all. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure if that actually answers your question, but
that does. And it takes us, yeah, thank you for sharing that. And that takes us into limiting beliefs that you had to overcome. And you had mentioned that like leaving your husband or being divorced was kind of something that you thought wasn't okay. So talk us through that.
So I'm really strong-willed, and that can look like many things, but basically what it comes down to is if I believe in something, I believe in it. I believed in marriage with every part of my soul. I haven't always believed in God. That's been a relationship that's been over the last, probably more so the last year, and it gets stronger every day, but I've always believed in marriage. My parents were divorced, well, they went together from a young age, so I don't know where that belief came from, but it was very strong. I remember before we got married, I remember saying to him, are you sure you want to do this? Because I am not a woman who will ever be divorced. I will not divorce you. And I meant that with every part of my being. So I really struggled even leading up to knowing that we needed to part ways. And then I'm not yet divorced, but I will be divorced. And it was actually a conversation with Joel. He doesn't remember any of the conversation. And I said to him, because I know that he's a strong believer, and I said to him, how do I work myself around this aspect of, doesn't God put marriages together, and who are we to leave? And to me, I believe I've done a lot of judging of what his actions are, and I almost feel like he's in bed with the devil. And how do I just leave him to go to the dark side? And a lot of the talk that came around that was freedom of choice, which is pretty much what I said before. You have the choice, live or die, white or black, like in or out. So that allowed me more movement in my thinking. And he also said to me that God doesn't want me to be unhappy. God didn't put me here to look after that one person, that I have my purpose on this earth. And for some people that may be it, but for me it was not. And I knew that in my heart. I knew that if I had enough faith in God himself and in me, that God will take care of him and me, and that I need to go my own way and to do what it was that I was put here to do. So that allowed me it just shifted. It gave me a whole lot of space to move in and come to terms with that.
And I know it was probably a hard decision, and it probably took a while, and you probably wrestled with it because you had thoughts and expectations of who you should be in the relationship and how you should show up. But now that you've been through that and you're on the other side of it, what is your experience now?
Which part?
So of letting go of, I guess, the rule or the expectation that you had on yourself.
So it wasn't one rule or one expectation or one belief. It's a spider web. There's so many different, and a lot of external judging, a lot of external rules. But for myself, do you know what's been the biggest way, that's the biggest thing to help me get through it, is my daughter. Because, and it's not in a normal sense of you've got to do it for your kids. Like, that didn't work for me. That might sound shitty, but it didn't work for me. What worked for me is seeing the way that she lives her life, how she can forgive so quickly, how a daisy out on the lawn is exciting. And although I couldn't embrace those things at that time, it started to help me go back to who I was before I put on all my masks and all my layers. And a lot of the time I had been told that I always would stress, you're so serious, you're no fun, all of these things. And I knew that's actually not who I am. I'm actually the really bubbly, cheery, happy, funny person. I'm actually the life of the party, but I wasn't at all. I was the person who got shit done and got it done well. That's who I'd become. So once I started to realize that I wanted to be me again, I needed to be me again, and that meant I had to go back in time quite a long way, and it's quite a hard process to start to find out who I was and along the way. It's almost like you're walking down back to your childhood and you're picking up a mask and you can see yourself, oh, there's another mask, there's another one, and you slowly got to take them off. And every time you take off a mask, it's crying, it's grief, and all of the stages of grief. I don't know if there's 5 or 7 anymore, whatever people like to call it. But all I know is that the highs get higher, the lows get higher. So every cycle of grief gets less and less, and every part of your happiness and freedom and who you are becomes stronger and stronger.
That's amazing. And I know that people can resonate with this. I can resonate with this. And what I'm hearing you saying is you had to make a decision, number one, and you had to realize that you weren't being your true self anymore. And I think that's so huge. And then it's not like an overnight change, which I think people, when they see people being successful or having what they want or having ideal relationships, they see the end result. They don't see the process. They don't get to see the pain during the process. So I'm glad that you shared that. And then the other piece, your actual website and your Instagram is called Being Me in This World. So I'm curious, it sounds like this is where this came from, this process.
So it's so important to me that I show the process. So like on my Instagram, I'll sing and I do little things like that, and I'll do the girl in the mirror. And that's all come about from me going, I can't sing, I don't like my voice. I don't like my face. Look at this, look at the wrinkle, blah, 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 all of that. And when I flew to Bali the first time in April, for the first time to go there, I was going there for a retreat with my coach, who I hadn't met before. That was my crossroads. That was if I go and do this, this would be the first time in my life that I remember that I'm actually choosing me. And that's a process. Anyone that's gone somewhere to do something for themselves and who might have kids or pets or a house, they know you're actually choosing yourself. So that in itself, I forgot what your question is, of being me. I had to choose myself, right? So when I went there, and I realized that a lot of everything we do is confidence, right? And I have all these things that I don't like. So I came home and I made a list. I didn't write down a list of things I don't like about myself, but it was perceived weaknesses, because I wanted to turn them into strengths. And so that's just what I did. I went, okay, I don't like my voice and I don't like my face and I can't sing. So I went, I'm going to sing on Instagram. And then once I can start doing it on Instagram, then I'll be able to start doing it in real life in front of people. And it works. It works like you wouldn't believe. And so I struggle too showing the process sometimes, because sometimes I'm not, I was going to say, sometimes I'm not a nice person, but it's true. Sometimes like this process of this entire breakup hasn't been easy. And there have been certain things along the way that have happened that I've gotten really righteous about. And I have said things and put posts up, and every now and then I've gone, right, I've had enough of this, and I've done things that I don't admire about myself. But what I try and do is embrace that side as well. I don't love it, but I'm trying to accept it, because I am not a unicorn and I don't want to be all light and fluffy. And this is me being me. And again, doing life coaching, am I supposed to act like I've got all my shit together? And then I think, no, you know what? Me as being me, I want to tell the truth, regardless of what people say about marketing and all the rest of it. I have to show the process all the way through. And you could go back through the history and see me changing along the way. You'll see my themes. You'll see when I was happy and light and colourful, and you'll see a week where the stuff all looks dark. And that's important to me, because like you said, people think you go from nowhere. Like Brené Brown was just born from nowhere, but they weren't. And I believe people need to see that, because that's hope.
I so believe that as well. And I think you're so courageous in doing that. But how does somebody, you make it sound simple, like, I don't like my voice, so I'm going to go do something where I have to listen to my voice. But what's the actual process? Because there's an internal battle going on. So how do you overcome that battle and actually put things out there that you're not comfortable doing?
Okay, so that's the vision and the values piece. So when I first had to look at what are my top 6 values, I had no idea. And that there are, I mean, you can have a coach work with to do that, or you can find it on the internet, whatever. But I truly believe if you don't know your values, that you won't get far. I mean, oh, that sounds bad. Like you will, but I mean, you won't get far fast, because I had to get to that point where I even felt like doing my values right, and that was quite far into the journey. But the values then leads to making a vision, which is I know where I'm standing in my 10 years. I can see it. I can see what I'm wearing. I can see how I'm feeling, all of it. That is what then leads me to go, in order to do that and to be who I want to be and to inspire other women to become these things, I need to hold on to this part of myself, the everyday normal mum who yells at her kids sometimes and has to rush out and put the rubbish out at the last minute and quickly stop and buy stuff at the shop 1 minute before an interview. I've got to hold on to that, as well as okay, well, I want to show people how to be more confident. So therefore, I need to be more confident. What do I need to do to be more confident? And I mean, it's not easy. Sometimes I still look at my stuff and I'm like, shame, but I just don't analyze it and think about it. It's done now.
Yes. And so is one of your values confidence?
No, it's being me in this world. That's one of my values.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's just like showing up authentically is so true to you that nothing is basically going to get in your way, because it's now one of your top values.
And unconditional. That's one of my values, and that encompasses that's there are no conditions except the conditions you put on yourself. I truly believe there are no conditions, and if anyone said, yeah, but this can't happen, I'm like, well, people said people couldn't do this. Like, it just, no, whatever. You can do it. You can do it if you want to. That's all it is.
I love that. And I do want to plug Joel's podcast as well. I know we've talked about it on the previous episode. I'll put it in the show notes. It's called Addicted to Success. And the episode that I loved was with Emil Steenfeld, which is your coach. And that pretty much made my decision to go to their retreat in Bali. So I'll link that in the show notes just to make sure, because they're the ones that taught us both about vision and values. And I agree. It's so important to know what direction you're headed. And then you're taking steps and you're doing actions that are completely aligned with your values. And you're just so sure about what you're doing, which I think a lot of people listening. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm big on the process. Sometimes you take steps towards your value, towards your vision. Sometimes you go off to the side. And I did that a lot. So when I left and I had this, and then I was like, okay, I'm writing a book. I'm writing an adult's book. I'm writing books to do with transitions, in your life. And I'm also going to write children's books loaded with all these messages. So off I went. And then I went, hang on a minute. No. Oh, how did I get so snowed under with the book? The book's way in the future. So I had to come back. But the point is, that didn't take me backwards. That just took me on a detour, on a side trip. But a lot of people have said things to me and they get upset that they've taken detours and they're not on the right track and they stuffed it up and they're wasting time. And I don't think any of it is wasting time. I think it's all part of the process. Sometimes you have to go off and do something that you don't necessarily agree with, or be with somebody that you don't necessarily agree with, to remind yourself, oh, hey, this isn't right for me. And to teach you, again, boundaries, I think, is so huge, Cami. Honestly, most women I talk to, it's boundaries. And you learn a lot of boundaries in the dating scene. What you do and don't put up with, what you will or won't do, and whether you stay true to yourself. That's how I feel like that's how you test yourself. I just wanted to chuck that in there because I don't believe in a straight path.
And I think a lot of listeners too, they're recovering perfectionists, or they've seen this vision for their life and this is how it was going to go. And that's how I was. I didn't imagine myself here on a podcast with you 10 years ago. I was doing biology because that's what I went to school for. But I think we also get pulled in the direction. And there's this internal knowing. I'm sure you think of it as intuition. And I know you have You have 2 words that you describe yourself as that I don't know what they mean. So tell me what those mean. Go back to the 2 things that you put in the beginning. You're clairsentient and clairaudient. Am I
Okay,
saying
so
that right?
clairsentience basically means that I feel things.
Mm-hmm.
So most people feel energy and things like that, but I have it on a much stronger level. So most people know what a clairvoyant is, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go in something, so they see things. So clairaudience is I will hear things and I will feel things. And I could say, hey, Kimmy, how are you doing? Are you okay today? And you'd be like, oh my gosh, all this happened. And one day after me doing that 5 times, you'd be like, how do you always know when to message me at the right time? And I'm like, I feel things. So that's what clairsentience is. And the clairaudience is I'll just, certain words and things will pop in my head. I don't put them there. And they'll come in and then I'll know,
Mm-hmm.
I might know exactly what you were thinking or going to say. I can't know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I will hear things that will come through to just kind of guide me or let me know what's useful and what's not useful. Yeah.
And I think everybody has a bit of that, but I think we shut it down. So how can you tell other people to get back in touch with that? Because a lot of people listening are high performers. They're going, always feeling like they need to achieve something. And they literally never sit still long enough. And that was me. I was just doing what I thought I was supposed to do. And there was a voice in my head and I knew it was there, but I was like shutting it off. I was like, nope. Or maybe it's a voice in your heart. I don't know where it comes from, but it was like, this isn't right. This isn't right. This isn't right. And I was like, shut up. Yes, it is. And I just kept going. So how can we even get more in touch with it? And now I feel like I'm in touch with it and I know, like you talked about dating, like I know now, like this is right, this is not right. Like it's just very clear to me. But what if people are like, what are they freaking talking about? Like, how would you explain that to somebody?
So if someone's saying, what are they freaking talking about? It means that they're denying it completely. They don't want to know, probably because everyone does have it, but probably because you're probably in a situation that you absolutely shouldn't be in. And you absolutely don't want to listen because it's far too scary to get out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit of a hard question for me to answer because I've always had it. And I just did a video yesterday on intuition. And so in that video, I said, go back to a time when something's happened in your life, or something's almost happened that you've been unsafe. So maybe a time when you've been saved from danger or something horrible has happened. Go and hone into that in your mind and in your feelings and think about what you felt. So I've had this conversation with other people and they've said, no, yeah, that morning I was like, don't go out. And then when I got there, I thought, turn around, or all of these things, okay? That a person that doesn't understand what we're talking about, they'll need to dig deep into a memory where something's happened and find what that sounded like or felt like for them. And that's what it is. They'll probably pinpoint it, cry, and then realize, and then start to let it back in slowly again. And I've one of my biggest, I'm an advocate for breakdowns. Not sometimes. You have to have your breakdown before you can have your breakthrough. I believe that. I don't think everyone has to believe what I believe. Like I said, I'm a very strong believer in what I believe. But so you're going to get me going, get me fired up now. You're a perfectionist and you'll go, and I was like everything, right? I wanted to do everything and I wanted to do everything well all the time, right? And that meant always going 24/7. And if you've gone for that long, you've got so many masks on, so much stuff that's not yours, you have no space for anything or anyone else. And your obligations in your head to be a good wife, to be a good worker, to have a good business, to have a nice body, blah, 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 is so huge that the thought, and if you're a people pleaser, which I'm guessing you are because it's most likely why people do it, the thought of letting that person down and how are they going to survive if things don't work out is so overwhelmingly heavy that it's almost not possible. I needed to break down to get rid of all the obligation, to give me an excuse not to have to care so much about everybody else. And I had 3 breakdowns before I had my breakdown. And a breakdown doesn't probably look like people think it looks like. A breakdown is basically I can't do this anymore. And not just that, but literally on the ground and you cry, and maybe it's days. For me it was 5 weeks basically. And that's purging. You're starting to actually finally accept that you are not a superwoman, and nor were you supposed to be. And the reason why you are getting to that point is because there is a bigger purpose or something that you are supposed to be doing that you are not listening to. And I don't believe it's what you're doing, because I believe if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're probably not listening to this. You probably haven't been guided to this particular topic.
This is so great. And it reminds me that superwomen don't ask for help because they can do everything themselves. So we've both obviously had coaches that have been supporting us on our journey. And I had a story for so long that I'm different. I don't need help. I got this. And that's what kind of kept me in my cycle for so long. So speak to the person who still is like, nope, I got it. I got it.
I had it. And you know what is interesting is that people from the outside looking in would say to me, I don't understand what happened. I thought you guys were the perfect couple. You had the perfect life, perfect house, perfect everything. Sure. Of course you did, because I didn't ask for help. I had it. I'm sorted. I'm an Aries. I'm April. I've got everything sorted. But you don't have your heart sorted. You don't have your soul sorted. And you already know that. And at some stage, you have to choose to put those things first. And that was the breakdown. So the beauty about a breakdown is that is the point where you're like, so my very words were, I need support. I love this topic because I have some of the most amazing, and I listened to Brené Brown yesterday, and she said, if you have 2 people who see and know you, or see and understand you, whatever it is, they get you, really get you, that you're totally blessed. I have probably at least 10, including you, and it is so amazing. I would never have dreamt that in my life, that I would have this closer friendships, because another thing that comes with not asking for help is not being intimate in a connection way. And I'm not talking about anything sexual. We're talking about as Emil says, intimacy. So if you're not asking for help, I could almost guarantee you don't have intimacy with girlfriends, or probably not even your partner, because you're not showing the vulnerable side of you. You're only showing the strong, super side of you. So you're showing Superman, but you're not showing Clark Kent. Like, no one gets to see Clark, but Clark is dying, which means that Superman is going to die. I don't know where that just came from, but
that was so good.
Superman dies because Clark Kent dies, all right?
Yes.
I was dying. That's what I said to you before. My soul was dying. I had no choice. So the beauty with the breakdown is you start to realize that you need to let people in. And one of the first girlfriends that I talked to about what I had suspected was going on, it was so scary and difficult for me to say it, because I judged me. I don't judge other women when things like that happen, but I judged me. And then I started to slowly be more and more vulnerable and tell closer people along the way, and let people in. And when people would say, how are you coping? How are you? I would tell them the truth. And the true friends, the people who are meant to be here to work through this process with you, they don't run when you tell them the truth. They guide you through it. And then one night after my real breakdown, which was me, a really quick version of the story, crying and snotting all over my car and banging the steering wheel, going, I literally can't do this. God, you fucking suck. I'm not doing this. Fix this now. Like they do in the movies. It was almost like that. You don't sort this, I'm coming home. Like, it was almost like that. And I literally sat in the bath for 2 hours, and I was like, I need support. That's what I need. I need like a mum. I have a mum, but I don't have a mum. And I was like, I need support. Please send me support. I need support. I was on the phone to Emil the next day. So I've picked up my support along the way through friends and certain various other people, and then through a coach, and then even you, like even people that are doing similar things to you. You support each other. And you aren't going to do that if you're not vulnerable, if you're not asking for help. And nobody is going to connect with you properly and on an intimate level if you don't let them see you cry. I hope I answered your question.
That is you're getting me right here. You're gonna make me cry now. So because
another value is heart truth.
I mean, you got me. You're living in your values right now. And it's funny because just a short time ago, like before Bali, I was all these things that you were saying, closed off, wouldn't let people in, everything's fine, wouldn't tell anybody anything, would hide a lot of things. And then made the decision to go to Bali, which was huge, right? Put myself first, didn't know how I was going to get there, got there. And now I'm just crying all the time. And it's funny because I spent 30 years not really crying. And then now I'm like crying at everything. And it's actually magical. And I'll just be like, yeah, I was just crying over here. And, I just did this forgiveness letter and I was crying. And somebody that I just met goes, well, you cry a lot. And I was like, I really do. And I didn't have any judgment around that. Whereas before I definitely did. I thought crying was weakness. So what's your perception now about crying and weakness and what true strength is?
Yeah, big girls don't cry.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Okay, so maybe a few months ago, we were talking on a Zoom about something, and I was like, "Oh man, every time I talk about something that hits my heart, these things happen in my eyes, and it's really annoying and it's really frustrating, and it is, and I'm sick of it, right?" So one of another of my values is heart truth. And as you start to see a theme, I've kind of made some of these words kind of up. But heart truth is just speaking from your heart. It's your truth. And learning to do that in a way that is soft or kind. And it's not, I don't want to go because I don't want to go. Now leave me alone. Mm-hmm. It's a different way. So I went to a workshop. So what I mean, support comes in different ways. And his name was Matthew Petty. I think he's from Australia. Anyway, he spoke about different dimensions, which is a whole different topic. But one thing that resonated with me, and I believe I said this at the opening in Bali, was that when my body knows it's the truth, when my soul hears the truth, my body reacts. And for me, that's in here. Sometimes it's little shivers, but when my soul, my soul's telling me things, and then my body's like, yes, this is real, this is the truth, that's how I react. So there's that side of it, which is the small little tears and that, and then there's crying. And if you spent 30 years of crying, I'm really sorry to say that you've got a shitload more of crying to do, because you've got 30 years of crying to get out.
I know.
And that's what I said. That's what it looks like. The process looks like a lot of crying. And I never used to let people see me cry. And if I had been crying, I would stay in the room until I was all fixed, couldn't come out. Now, I could be crying and open the door and have a dinner party, because crying to me is a natural part of life. But I suppose what we need to do is a process to get to accepting that. And again, I used to hate when people would say this to me, it's just a choice. It's simple. It's as easy as picking up a pen, but it is simple, but it's not easy. But somebody said to me, when your kid cries, if you have a kid, when your pet cries, when your nieces or nephews cry, your grandchildren cry, do you be like, stop crying? Now, it's a tricky one, because some people say, oh, should I do? I do. I don't make but I don't. I do sometimes, but a natural part of me is let them express their emotions. Now, you think about a newborn baby, they can't talk. They express their emotions through tears, and that is to let you know there's something not right. Now, if you'd fed that child and changed the dirty nappy before they cried, because this is a neglectful mum, remember, they're neglecting their soul, so they're neglecting their baby. If they had changed that baby and fed that baby, it wouldn't need to cry. But they didn't. And so now it's sitting here in a sewer nappy and it's starving and it can't talk, so it cries. So if you don't need it cry, if you don't cry, all you're doing is telling yourself you are not important. Please sit in your shitty nappy and starve. Pretty much what it is. And you've got to let it out, and I promise the crying will stop. Depending how much work you do and how much you let yourself do it, the crying will stop. And some days you need to cry and you're like, I can't do it today. I've got this going on, I can't wait to get home. Oh, I can't wait to be 12 hours. Oh, shit, now I can cry. And it's a release. So you can't be scared of crying, but the grief stages of crying do feel like grief. There will be some hard crying. I'm not going to lie. I don't sugarcoat stuff. But it does ease off, and then you get those release type crying, which is a nice cry.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean now. I do. And I think the challenge here, somebody's like, well, not everybody can go to Bali, right? Somebody's talking about how that's great. You guys went to Bali, you're best friends. But what about people? Maybe they are in a small town. Maybe they don't have a tribe. And really what we're talking about is how important tribe and being vulnerable and being authentic is. So what would you suggest? I know you have stuff going on in New Zealand, but so tell us what you're doing. And then just, if they feel like completely alone, what would be the first step for them to do?
I was completely alone because I didn't let anyone in. Some of my closest friends now are people that I've known, that I knew from when I worked back in a men's clothing store at maybe 22, 23, that I hadn't spoken to for 10, maybe 15 years. I have people that were there that whole time, and I almost guarantee those people do too. I almost guarantee it, that you hadn't let in. But along the way, if you've been a good person at any stage of your life, you have done something to impact other people, first and foremost. And they've probably been waiting for an opportunity and a chance to return the favour. And when those people come knocking at your door, messaging you, saying, hey, how are you? And your normal reply is, I'm fine, thank you, everything's great. No, tell them. Maybe not a novel, but tell them, it's been hard. So I'm suggesting that you probably already have people, first and foremost. And then second, I want the man of my dreams. I want true love. I really do, but I'm not going out into that world. He needs to come knock on my door, and he needs to convince me to let him in my house, and he needs to win my heart over while I sit in my chair. Like, okay, please? Like, it doesn't work. And you can do it really easy. You can just, whatever it is your thing, like instead of going to the gym, maybe just go for a walk this day and take the same route. And then maybe you'll see a lady there, and every morning her dog runs away and it makes you laugh. And then one day you'll say, you make me laugh every day. And then somehow you start talking. Like, there are people everywhere, but if you walk around like this, you aren't going to see them. And that's like, Cammy, you sent me a message. We may or may not have connected in Bali. There was a lot of people there had we not spoken prior. But you reached out. You're like, looks like she could be all right. And you messaged me. And I thought, yeah, she seems all right too. So what I'm doing now is I've started up workshops. Oh, they're not workshops, sorry. What did I mean to say? Masterminds. I just call them catch-ups, meetups. And I don't know if there'll be 0 people turn up, or 1 or 20, and I don't really care. But I've put it out there, and the only requirement is that they're interested in self-development and self-growth. I've said I don't care where they start. They could be 50 shades of messed up when they start. I don't mind, as long as you're interested in growth and self-development. And then I'm just doing it at my home, because I do have that good sense of character. I'll just feel my way through it. And then I know that I can keep myself safe, so I'm not worried about that. So there's no huge planning. And I've said, everyone just bring a plate. If you're still in the perfect mum life, please do bring us a cake. And there's no attachment to the outcome. And so then I just put it out. I put it out there. Like, bring me the people who will connect with me, that I can support and that will support me. It's a two-way street. And then we'll go from there.
I think that is so freaking beautiful. And what about the people, like, I know at least in the US, we have meetups, right? You can go online, you can go to meetup.com. Now, I've talked to so many people that are like, yeah, I just like never got the courage to go. So talk to that person who like really wants a positive social network, but just has not gotten the courage to go.
So that was me as well. This is a trip. All of the stuff that you're saying, that the taking the action part, the faith in the action part, they go hand in hand. Because I really believe ask and you shall receive. That is like so hugely ingrained in me. And I also believe where there's a will, there's a way. And I don't know how, but that just popped into my head when I was about 15, and it has never ever left. Where there's a will, there's a way. So, dear God, please send me support. Please send me a tribe. No, this is a message from my friend Lou. Hey, I've got a life coach. She's amazing. Goodbye. Dear God, where's my support? It's like, it sounds silly, but it is that. And I'm like, you got a life coach, what's his name? Scary. Oh, money. Oh, I can't afford any of that. I can't do any of that. But can I afford not to? It is scary, but what is the worst that is going to happen? You're going to get to my house, you're going to look at me, and I'm going to look probably roughly the same as what I look like when you stalk the shit out of me on Instagram or Facebook anyway. And you're going to come in, and we're going to do our best to be natural, which means that you may find yourself being natural, and I'm going to talk about things that you think about, and you're going to sit there and judge me, and you may or may not join in, and then you're going to leave. And when you leave, you're going to be still alive. I promise. You'll have 2 arms, 2 legs, everything will still be intact, and you're either going to go, oh, I can't stand that, I hate that, never going back, and write it off, go home, and that's that, carry on with your life. Or you're going to go, I could probably do this again, and do it again, and still know me in 20 years maybe. I don't know how to answer the question except for you have a choice. And what's the worst that's going to happen? And again, it's like talking to your child. Like talk to no, it'll be fine. Just go and ask the kid if they want to play with you on the swing. They don't care. They literally go to a park and watch the kids. Watch random kids go over. Hey, bro, you want to wrestle? Next minute, they're rolling around on the grass. Something goes wrong, they cry, they run back to their parents, which is home, and then they come back and play again or not. It sounds simple again. It's not easy, but it's a choice.
Right.
And it's choosing you. Do you really want it or not?
That is so true, because as adults, we start to judge ourselves, each other. And honestly, I talk to so many women, especially, and men. It's probably even harder for men to have these intimate, close relationships. And I just mean like being able to share whatever's going on with you. And it takes that courage to say like, hey, do you want to be friends? Hey, do you want to get coffee? And I actually had a perfect example at church. This guy came back to church after 3 years of being an atheist. Of course, he connected with me. I connected with him. He's all tatted up. And I was like, this guy's pretty cool. He came back the next week. And luckily, we started chatting just about our lives. And he's like, hey, do you want to be friends? And I was like, yes. And we literally like shook hands and we're like, we're friends now. And it was so refreshing to just be that straightforward and honest and like, let's be friends now. Like it actually is that simple, like you said, and that maybe not be easy to do, but it's so simple. And afterwards you're like, that was easy. I have a new friend now.
Yeah.
So it goes back to being authentic and putting yourself first, which I feel like has been the theme of this whole show. And before I shut the show down, I want to ask you one more question and then find out where people can find you. What is your definition of freedom?
The definition I wrote, well, it has to be.
Whatever you flow with, girl.
So I, a couple of months ago, I was out clubbing, and I remember it was quite interesting because I was so present and grounded, and it was probably 2:30 in the morning, and I was standing in the middle of the dance floor. I feel like there was no one there, but there must have been people there. That's what it felt like. There with my feet like planted firmly in the ground. And I just looked around and I feel like I had my arms like outstretched and I feel like I was just like, this is the fucking life. And it was because the feeling was, do you know what? I have my amazing girlfriends right here, smiling, happy, not doing anything they shouldn't be doing. I have my beautiful, cozy home. My daughter's being looked after over there. I'm doing the things I want to do. I'm about to go to Bali in a couple of weeks again. And I'm not hurting anyone. I'm not upsetting anyone. I'm doing whatever it is I want to do. If I want to go home with old Joe Bloggers over there, I can. If I don't have to. If I want to walk home, I can. If I want to catch a cab, I can. Oh my gosh. I can do whatever I like right now. As long as I'm living in my values. And I literally stood there thinking like this, as long as I'm living in my values, I can do any of it. I'm never going to forget this feeling. And I went out, we were a little bit tipsy, and we made like a 2-minute video on freedom. And I was like, please smack me upside the head if I ever forget what freedom is. Freedom is literally being free to be yourself in this world. And that the in this world part of the being me in this world, what I mean is in today's day and age, because the conscious parenting, raising children is different to what it was. Very different than what we grew up with. In this world full of judgment, full of social media, full of like everything the way you have to be, the freedom to be yourself and to really own that and to start to like actually love yourself, that's freedom to me.
I love that. And it's funny, I don't know if you knew, originally I had called this show Rule Breaker Lifestyle because I was like, freedom lifestyle, let's do it. And I went on a mission trip and came back and I had that voice that said, you need to rename the podcast. And it was about fit, faith, freedom, because it's not about breaking the rules to break the rules. Like you said, you're still living within your values and you're free to do whatever you want, but you've defined your values. And so I think that's so succinct the way you said it, is like, I'm living for a purpose and I can do whatever I want within this purpose. And it's so clear. And then there's no confusion. I think a lot of people are confused out there. So if you can take anything away from this, like working through your values seems to be like step one in limiting that confusion. Would you say that?
I would say step one is purging. I feel like people underestimate the power of purging because you're full. I'm just going to say that straight up. You're full. You're already full. You already do way too much. You just do way too much. And you're so full. Like, I have nothing to give an example, but the cup is full to the brim. In fact, it's overflowing, right? Okay, this is a bad example because that sounds good. But let's just carry on. It's flowing right to the top. You cannot fit any more in it. And it's full of gross stuff. There's worms in there and dirt in there and bits of disgusting, a couple of bits of glitter, but it's gross. How are you going to get better support, better friends, authentic love? Like, how are you going to get all the beauty in your life? And your life is this cup, by the way, in you, when it's full. Okay, you need to get in there and get that worm out. You need to get that crusty old glitter out. You need to get it out. That's the breakdown. And then and only then, the purging, can you start to go, right, now, what do I actually want to put in this cup? And then you're going to fill the cup up, and then the cup overfloweth with the beauty. And then that's what you spread to the world. But at the moment, your cup overflows with crap. Sorry, I'm actually quite very visual. I see a lot.
I love it.
That's what you're spreading. You're spreading out worms and yuckiness.
Yes.
So you need to purge. That's step one, I do believe. And then what was the next one? I forgot.
Step two was going into the values. So you purge, and then
and that's how you
start consciously putting back in things that you're like, yeah, this aligns with me. And I like to say it's like trying on clothes, because I tried on a bunch of different values and I was like, No. That's not the right one. I need to change that out for something else. So it is a process. Like the whole point of this is it's all a process.
Yes. So I had many different values, and I was dead set, these are my values, and one of them was trust.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was faith.
Mm-hmm.
Many different values, and that's what I mean. It takes you over here chasing after the book to realize, oh, hang on, that wasn't that's actually not really my value, because your values are in your heart, truth. They're in your heart. And when you start to, like I said, when you start to go off and do something, go date a guy because you think that all was your value, and then you're like, oh no, yeah, it's not. Okay, bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.
And you do it again. And you keep going, and you just don't give up. You never give up.
Yes. I think that's the biggest takeaway in all of this is that don't give up, keep going. And if somebody is looking for support, what do you offer and where can we find you?
You can find me in little old New Zealand.
I'm coming there. I can't wait. I'm going to be there.
Yes,
Very
you
excited.
are. So basically, I'm at the moment online. So I'm in New Zealand, but I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook mostly. So feel free to shoot me a message. But my heart truth is the children, and I struggle with this. I'm just going to steal another minute to say this because I think it's so important. A lot of people who don't know their life purpose and put so much pressure on it, as I did for years and years, you're actually just lying to yourself. You do know it. You may not understand how it works because you're so used to being in control that it doesn't make sense. So for me to say that I want to work with children, no, I don't. I'm not that person that walks in and is like the favorite auntie that is like, oh, beautiful little kids. I'm not that person. I'm also not the dog lover that comes in and loves every single dog. I will pick and choose. I gel with that dog. That dog's amazing. But it's not so for me to say that my life purpose was children, I struggled with that because I didn't understand the process. So what I'm most passionate about is teaching people, and specifically mums, but I understand we all impact the children. So it's not anyone I wouldn't, work with, how to fill their cup like we just described with so much beauty that it overflows so that they can parent consciously, which means more present moments, more empathy, more actually being there and seeing things in their perspective, more picking up the orange and throwing it across the backyard because it was fun for them. Mm-hmm. Because that banishes so much of the world's problem, all the mum guilt, all of the superhero complexes, and it allows our children to grow up with way less worms in their cups.
That is so good. I know so many moms that are part of my groups would love to hear this because the common thing they talk about is mom guilt. So I know you hit the nail on the head with that one. Thank you so much for sharing and being on today. This was beautiful. I love having you on. I love seeing your face. And I'm excited to come and see you in New Zealand. I'm like planning my trip already. So we'll have to do lots of fun things and make sure that we get on a Facebook Live or something when that happens.
Yes, make it happen.
All right, I will. Hugs to you. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
All right, bye.